Welcome to the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast, where every week we're interviewing guests that support the small business industry. Today, I'm going to say what you don't want to hear. We all need help, and some of us need all of the help we can get, but not just any help will do. A lot of people are looking for success, money, maybe even fame. This takes outside resources. We can't do it alone. Today's guest specializes in helping people make the mindset shift so that it's not just money you're getting, but you're really building a life of success and fulfillment. I want to welcome Patricia Stepler, Creating Top Producers founder, to the podcast. Patricia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jason. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Give us a quick introduction as to, I talked a little bit about it in the intro, but what is it that you're solving for your clients in your own words?
I'm helping them to rewire their thought process and to get the results that they want. For instance, let's say, somebody's earning $10,000 a month and they want to get to 35 or 50. To get to that point, you're going to have to rewire your thinking, because the thought process you have today has gotten you to where you are. But if you want to make a real big leap, you're going to have to shift your thinking.
That's a great point. Let's dive in a little bit if we can. Why is it people get stuck at the thought process that they're at, and what goes into this rewiring of your brain to be able to get you to the next level?
Okay, so they're stuck because of the limiting beliefs, and they are so embedded in our subconscious mind. And that whole process could have come from when you were a small child. Even, you might have had parents like my parents would say, money doesn't grow on trees, or we don't live on that side of the road, or that side of the town, and just those little comments can get into your thought process. And then you start to think, well, you can't afford this, or you can't afford that. I even had a lady I talked to one time, and she had grown up in an Eastern European country. And she said that when she was a child, she was told that if you earned more than $50,000 a year, you were not a good person because of all the corruption that there was. So she was in real estate, and every time her business would get close to that 50,000 mark, it'd start to plummet. And, it was so unconscious because the thoughts were all in the subconscious, and that was controlling her, because the subconscious is what controls our actions.
So what you're talking about, really, you're talking about self-sabotage when it is you don't even realize you're doing it. What was the inspiration that you had to decide to get into this type of business?
Well, that all came from my son. So my son, when he was 12 years old, he told me he was going to get a college scholarship. And my oldest daughter was in college. My second daughter was about to go to college. And my son was like, you don't have to worry about saving money for me. And I said, oh, what are you going to do? At first, I thought maybe he wasn't going to go to college, and, he had some other occupation in mind. And he said, I'm going to be a collegiate athlete. And I said, well, what sport? Because at the time he played football, basketball, and baseball. He said, I don't know yet. Well, by ninth grade, he decided it was going to be baseball. Well, if you talk to any collegiate baseball coach, they'll be happy to tell you that they don't really give full scholarships in baseball. They don't have the money like they do in football or basketball. But he just kept pursuing this, that he was getting this full scholarship to college. And even the school that was really interested in him, when we went to visit them and talk to the admissions office, they said, you can probably expect maybe a third to half. And it was actually going to be an academic scholarship, not an athletic scholarship. That didn't matter to my son. It was all about the scholarship. So when the scholarship letter came, I remember picking it up from the mailbox. I handed it to my son, and he looks at me and he goes, Mom, wouldn't this be funny if it's a full scholarship? And I quickly reminded him that they told us 1/3 to 1/2. You see, I never believed he'd get any scholarship, let alone a full scholarship. And he opened that letter, and there it was, a full scholarship, and it would increase as their tuition increased. It would go up too. So at that moment, even though I'd done all this personal development my entire adult life, I knew I was missing something because I couldn't figure out how he did it. And so that sent me on my own journey to figure it out. And once I figured out what he had done, then I just wanted to help other people do it too.
What's the process like when you're breaking down these beliefs? I mean, I know, I'm sure I have them myself, and you had to definitely go through the process yourself. Um, like, talk a little bit about what, um, without completely necessarily giving away the farm, like what's that process like, and what can somebody expect this from a time frame, or is it really dependent upon the person?
Time frame depends on the person and how embedded those limiting beliefs may be in them, and how many we have to actually break down. But we all have limiting beliefs. Everybody does, because that's what keeps us where we're at. And first we have to become aware. And so awareness is everything. And you have to, be able to figure out, where did that limiting belief come from? Why do I think the way I think? Was it something that was said to me? Was it something that I, just kind of grew up with? Or, where did it come from? And then you have to decide, okay, what's the basis for that belief? Is there any? And most of the time, there is no basis for that belief. And so we just have to start, figuring out where they are. And then we have to start rewiring or building, we call them paradigms. So we need to build a new paradigm, which is a group of thoughts and habits that we have. And we have to build a new paradigm that makes that one that you are getting rid of obsolete.
Mm, that's very good. Very good. The um the the mindset world can be very, for lack of a better term, woo woo. We'll
Mhm.
go that direction and whatnot. And there's a lot of different elements to bringing in that you have to bring into the conversation. How do you differentiate yourself from the others that are in the space that are um, less conventional, maybe?
Yeah. So that's basically what I say. When my son got that scholarship, all the personal development I had done was more conventional. And that's why I didn't understand what he did. And be honest, when I started to figure out when I first, so that journey led me to Bob Proctor, who I had heard of. I knew he was in the personal development area, but I'd never run across him in, a few decades, as to any conventions. And when I first started to listen to him, I thought, this guy is crazy. This just doesn't make sense. And, I didn't believe it myself because it does seem very woo woo. And, but the more I started to see what the process was, and then I'd relate it to what my son had done, I could see it and I understood it. And then I spent, next few years trying to explain to my son what he did, because you see, we've all done it in our past. We have all, in acquiring something that we wanted, we have gone through the process, but because we don't understand it, we just think it happened. Well, it didn't just happen. You caused it to happen. And so just helping with that awareness. So I would totally agree. If you'd have told me this 15 years ago, I'd have thought you were crazy. And I'd have said, no, I don't believe it at all. So I think what makes me very different is I saw somebody who accomplished something fabulous that should not have happened. And you wouldn't have expected it to happen. But he followed the laws of the universe. He did the things that we all need to do to accomplish that goal. He had no clue what he was doing. And that made me a believer.
Mm. If you've ever opened your laptop ready to grow your business, and 2 hours later, closed it, realizing you've gotten nothing done, but you've researched office chairs, you've ordered lunch, and you've planned out the next 3 dinners? All the things that you wouldn't typically do to work on your business? Yeah, I've done that too. I'm Jason Pond. I'm the host of the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast, and I want you to achieve your breakthrough. But we do that through the community I built. I built the Momentum Community. The Momentum Community is a place where we meet every week. We talk about your goals, where you want to get with your business, and then we track them. And we use the Momentum dashboard to do that. We make sure you're moving forward every week, and it's accountability like you've never seen in a community forum. I want you to be part of that community. If you want to learn more about it, check out the link in the description below and enjoy the rest of the episode. You talked a lot about your son in the past, and that's what kind of made you the inspiration behind starting your business. And that's helped you get to, start to get clients. In your client journeys, what's one that has been a recent thing that has really reminded you outside of your son, like, this is why I'm doing this work?
Well, I think I do that all the time when I'm, watching a client grow and expand their business, expand their life. Because, somebody asked me one time about, is this for business or for your life? It's for everything. And I think just the joy of watching somebody change, it's something enjoyable to see when they not only are accomplishing things in their career or in their business, but they're also changing who they are. And they become more confident in what they're doing. And it's just fun to watch and see people change.
We've lived in a world of technology and all of the different things. And what you're talking about, like, this is very human to human. Where's the future of mindset shift going? Are there apps? Are there things out there that are coming that you see that might help people do this easier? Or what could be the next evolution of mindset shift capabilities?
Yeah, I think there are some things out there with technology. I mean, even a simple thing like recording on your phone, just using a memo, or, there's different loops that you can get, and you can put your affirmations on there. You can, listen to them all the time. There are some apps, I can't tell you exactly what they are, but they deal with mindset. And so there is technology out there. And I think it does help people because, we didn't get our limiting beliefs by hearing something once. It was repeated over and over, just like when you learn in school. You don't go to elementary school and one day they say, okay, we're doing addition today. Okay, we're done. You should know how to add, that's it. You do it over and over again. You keep adding on to it, and you keep expanding your math skills, going from addition to subtraction to multiplication, division. You keep adding. And that's what you do when you're building your mindset. It's not a one time and it's done, or read one book, or, do one thing and you've got it. It's learning constantly. So anything out there where you can keep improving yourself is going to help change you as a person. A lot of times people just don't take the time to learn and the time to study. And so, they don't change much. I know when I left my world of education and went into corporate training for a while, what I realized is that bosses, supervisors, they have the same issue with their employees that teachers had with kids, because people don't change much throughout their life unless they consciously make a decision to change.
That's a great point. I had I do coaching for business owners, and in a very, very niche industry of broadband service providers. And we were just on a call here a little while ago, and I talked about, from a personal development perspective, what do they do to challenge themselves and improve themselves each and every year. And I've got some great people in the group that are stretching and pushing. But you make a great point that the common population, the common person, does not necessarily set a goal of getting outside of their comfort zone or trying something new or reading 10 pages a day. They just they fall into habits, or they may try and they may be okay for a week. What is one tip you could give to those that are listening to this, that have tried to make a change? They've done it for a week and they fall back, and they try something new for a week and then they fall back, and they're willing, right? They've got the mindset that they're trying to make a change, but they just can't quite get through that hurdle, the fallback hurdle that happens at that 7 to 14 day mark, where and we can pick on New Year's resolution enthusiasts out there, that you start at the gym on day 1, and then the second Friday of the month, the gym is empty again because of January, because everybody has fallen back to their norm. What's one tip you could give them that would help somebody get through that hurdle?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think the one thing, there's probably multiple things, but what we have to realize is that when you just say, "Oh, I'm going to like use my willpower to change something," you only have so much willpower. And that's why so many people on diets fail, because, they say, "Oh, I'm going to, not eat that piece of cake." And then somebody offers you this great looking piece of cake and they eat it. And what you really have to do is, first of all, you have to make a decision that you're going to change. But then you have to use your imagination, and you have to get emotionally involved in that goal. And if you're not emotionally involved in a goal, that's a very conventional type goal. And it's got to excite you. It's got to cause you to want to get up in the morning and be excited about where you're going. So a lot of times we set goals that we think we can do, but they're not inspiring us to really move beyond where we are. So you have to set the right kind of goal, and then you have to start imagining, okay, what's my life going to be like? And writing it down, and writing a story about it, and just really getting involved. But Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich talked about, it's got to be an emotional decision. It can't just be something that you just think about or write down one time and put it aside. You've got to get emotionally involved.
Good point. Good point. Get emotionally attached to the decision and make the move forward is such great advice. Patricia, it's been an absolutely great conversation. And listeners out there, please reach out to Patricia. What is a great way that somebody could reach out to you if somebody wants to learn more about what you do?
Well, they could go to my website, creatingtopproducers.com/home. They can find me in LinkedIn, Patricia Stepler.
Excellent. And we will link all of that information in the show notes. But Patricia, as we wrap up here, I always end the podcast with 5 or 6 lightning round questions. Are you ready for those questions?
I guess so. We'll see.
They're meant for fun and
Okay.
brevity. The first one's really simple. It's coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. How about cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you could grab only one weapon or item during a zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
Grab one item. My phone, I guess.
There you go. Call for help. Call for help. There we go. I gotta love it. How about a favorite quote or phrase you think about often?
You can never outperform the image you hold of yourself.
You can love it. How about a book that has influenced your life the most?
The Science of Getting Rich.
The Science of Getting Rich. Excellent. And the biggest obstacle you have ever had to overcome, and one lesson you learned from it?
Really, how to build a business. That was probably the biggest obstacle I ever come. And learning from it is find the right people to trust.
There you go. It's such a great, powerful job. Patricia, thank you so much for being a guest on this week's episode of the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast. And for those listeners out there that want to know more, definitely reach out. Check out the information in the show notes to reach out to her. Mindset is a powerful thing. But if you don't have that emotional attachment, as we talked about, you're not going to be able to make the lasting change. I've been through lots of lasting changes. I've been able to do a lot of it. And Patricia gave me some great insights into how I have made that possible through this to be able to make the connection and the relation, and definitely has intrigued me into wanting to learn more about these mindset shifts. So reach out to her on LinkedIn or at her website. And again, all that information is in the show notes. If you found value in this podcast, like, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening to the audio version. We'd love to hear your feedback. Until next time.